Hey, what's up, guys? Chris Fluke here. Here we are, baby. Cornerstone Fitness. Now, this podcast episode today, it's going to be about athletic development. It's going to be about talent identification in kids, say, let's age between 13 and 17 years old. Now, this is kind of the sweet spot in regards to training. And when you pick up some stuff written by our kind of the forefathers in strength and conditioning, this man, Charlie Francis, who identified these certain parameters, Charlie Francis was one of the greatest track coaches that probably, ever existed. He became a disgruntled track and field coach because this top athlete, Ben Johnson, tested positive in the 1988 Olympic Games, and his medal was given to Carl Lewis, who took second. But that record that he ran that day, Ben Johnson, although he was on steroids, that record he ran was one of the best times ever recorded on a track until recent years with Usain Bolt. But at a time when a lot of people were using steroids, Ben Johnson was at the top of the pack. So when compared to his peers, he was hands down the fastest man on the planet. So getting into this stuff now with Charlie Francis here, reading his work kind of humbles me as a coach, makes me think like, man, I got a lot to learn. And meanwhile, this stuff's written in 1988, right? So 32 years ago, this was written. A lot of change has occurred over this time, but when you go back and look at what's been around since, the 50s, 60s, 80s, 2000s, 2020s, there's certain characteristics that just don't seem to go away. When you start looking at talent identification, Charlie Francis broke it down great in 88. I'm going to talk about it right now. So the checklist is kind of long, but he starts to list off with something great, and I think it's kind of funny. And I see it when I coach sports like wrestling in the past, where some of these guys that are explosive on the wrestling mat or explosive on the field, they're also a little bit of an explosive personality. They get a little bit jittery. Their nervous system kind of fires real quick, and they're kind of always on edge. Charlie Francis goes on to say, high-level sprinters tend to be short-tempered, explosive, and intense. A sprinter will have all of these characteristics even at a young age. An explosive personality is an indication of an explosive nervous system. Explosive personality, explosive nervous system, good chance you might have an explosive athlete right there. So if you see some of these characteristics in your young kid, try to figure out a way to embrace it and not try to, mellow them out, but try to channel that energy into something positive. The second thing we want to look at now, just the second thing on the checklist of things here, the athlete who can move his or her feet with high frequency is a candidate for sprinting. When you looked at a guy like Ben Johnson, when he was at top speed, he had 5 strides in 1 second. Think about that. 5 strides in 1 second. The ability to turn those feet over very fast and to get his feet going and get his body moving super quick is kind of unheard of. One way that we could look at this, you start your child standing, alternating or with feet together. You hop on the ground for a period of time, whether it be 10 to 15 seconds, and you record how many hops they get. So think about a pogo stick, both feet on the ground, hop, 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 hop. At the end of 10 seconds, you write down what they did. You could compare this to other kids, and you could start to figure out, who are the fast kids on this team just by a simple test like that. Number 3 here, enough power-related work must be done during the early years, ages 13 to 17, to maintain genetically determined levels of white or power-related muscle fiber. We want that white muscle fiber. That's the fast twitch stuff, all right? Number 2, also to promote the shift of transitional or intermediate fiber to white power-related muscle fiber. So between the ages of 13 and 17, we want to build up this white fiber, get as much of it as possible, because this is that muscle fiber that's going to last into our older decades, right? And it's also the muscle fiber that's going to make us fast and explosive athletes. Remember, we're talking about sprinting here. We're not talking about cross country. So, and in our bodies, we have this white blood, we have white muscle tissue, we have red, which is more slow twitch. And then we have some intermediate stuff. From age 13 to 17, we want to take that intermediate muscle fiber and try to transition that into that fast twitch fiber. How do we do that? By doing power-related activities, okay? Moving on. Endurance work must be carefully limited to light, because if too much endurance work at age 13 to 17 is going to transition us into a slow twitch athlete, all right? We want to prevent the conversion of transitional or intermediate muscle fiber to red endurance muscle fiber, okay? We already talked about it. I'm hammering that point home. Power-related work for young athletes include flat ground plyometrics, two-legged hopping, skipping, jumping, all right, all on 2 legs, all on the ground. Light medicine ball work, 6 to 8 pounds. The whole point of this stuff is to, I don't care if you could pick up a 20-pounder and throw it. I want to see you throw that 6-pound medicine ball with some extreme power and some extreme speed, velocity, whatever term you want to use, but whip that thing as hard as you can and as fast as you can, all right? Young athletes should compete in races regularly and perform speed work with maximum intensity. The best way to get kids to run fast is to have them chase somebody or to have somebody chase them. We want to introduce competition with these kids aged 13 to 17. It's one way to push them to move to levels that they might not move on their own, all right? You want them to compete and you want them to race. But with these competitions, we have to keep one thing in mind. We don't want to overemphasize winning when we are competing. We want to overemphasize accomplishing personal best, personal records. We just want to keep nudging them to get better and better and better. And it's like, don't worry about what that person's next to you doing. They might, who knows? They might do this sport all year round and they might be better than you at age 13. But if you just keep getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, that person that plays all year round at 13, they might peak at 14 or 15. Meanwhile, you're just getting better at 14, 15, 16, 17. You're going to pass them by, all right? So we got to keep that in mind. When I say race, when I say compete, you're competing against yourself. You're trying to get better each and every day, all right? Next thing, speed endurance work should be performed by young athletes over distances up to 150 meters, okay? So we're only able to hold our top speed, say, for 60 meters. In order for us, we could train acceleration, right, the first part of the race, and then speed endurance is carrying that top end speed for as long as possible. It might only be 40, 50, 60 meters, but we want to try to hold that, and we want to train these young athletes, try to build up a little bit of some volume with these speed endurance work, all right? 150 meters, though, keep that in mind. It's not 400, 800 meters. 150 meters, it is a little, it's the straightaway on a track and then half of the bend. That's 150 meters, okay? Next thing, just talked about this today with some people in here. Remember this, a short athlete will show earlier development than a tall athlete. Tall athletes take a longer time to develop sprint technique because of their long limb lengths. It takes the lanky athlete a little bit more time to figure out how to move that body efficiently. That short athlete, there's less room for error in terms of being efficient with their movements because of those limbs are shorter. Those longer limb guys, there's more wiggle room there, right? There's more possible for inefficiency, and that's going to be a little bit slower. But give it time. That long, tall, legged kid might be a late bloomer for you. Don't cut them. Keep them out. Try to encourage them to learn. Try to encourage them to get a little bit stronger so that they can move their body in more of an efficient manner. How do you get stronger at this age group? Those younger kids, say age 9 to 13 range. Body weight stuff, right? Very young athletes should be doing body weight stuff. It's relative strength. It's your ability to move your body. It's not absolute strength, which would be how much weight could I lift. It's your ability to move your own body. Push-ups, chin-ups, single leg squats, things like that. That's what the kids that are really good at that stuff are probably going to be your faster athletes as well. And again, we have to keep in mind, every kid is different. You might have the tall kid, the short kid, the muscle-bound kid, the super thin kid. Everybody's body's a little bit different. Everybody's going to excel at things at different rates, all right? Be patient with it. Keep everybody out, just to continue to hammer things home. If you want your kid to be powerful and explosive, train them powerful. Train them to be fast. Skip the cross-country running. You want them to compete, but you don't want to overemphasize beating the competition. You want them to beat themselves. You want to nudge them along and keep getting better and better along the way. Hope you guys like this short one. Peace, everybody.